Hey guys, you know there's thousands of different types of motorcycles out on the road today, but some are a lot more practical than others and some are just downright funky. Whether they're strapped with way too many motors or have a body design more akin to a children's toy, these motorcycles are totally bizarre. So, number 8, 1974 Ducati 750 SS. If you remember your old Economy 101 class, they said that scarcity creates demand, which was the case for the 1974 Ducati 750 SS. The 750 SS was based on the winning 750cc racer, the Imola 200, and only 401 of them were ever made. Also known as the Green Fame, the 750 SS was a round-case, bevel-driven Desmo produced generally for street use, but it did have some famous wins on the racetrack by famed racer Paul Smart. So if you bought this little cafe racer back in the 1970s, I can only hope you didn't sell it, because today it can easily go for over $100 grand. It even made it to the Art of Motorcycle exhibit in the Guggenheim Museum. Yeah, it's a small bike with a unique design that truly makes it not only one of a kind, but one of the most recognizable motorcycles ever made. And if you do manage to find one, just bite the bullet and buy it. Number 7, 1994 Ducati 916. Ducati is, without a doubt, one of the biggest names in the world of motorcycles, so when they released the 916 model in 1994, the ears of enthusiasts and racers everywhere immediately perked up. While only a few models were ever released in the early days, once it saw success on the racetracks, the demand for the Ducati 916 skyrocketed. Everyone wanted in on the action, and while production only lasted about 5 years, the Ducati 916 was the winning bike of 4 out of 5 Superbike World Championships and 1 Manufacturer Championship. But part of what makes the 916 so incredible is that it wasn't just for the racers with money. Some of its more popular competitors would cost about 27 grand, but everyday people could score the 916 for about half that price. The short-stroke engine churned out 100 horsepower and the bike could reach a top speed of 160 miles an hour. But it's the style of the bike that captured everyone's attention, which, according to the designer Massimo Tamburini, is meant to resemble the shape of a woman's body. But I'll leave that up to you. The 1994 aesthetic did pave the way for the more flowing lines that you can see just about everywhere today. And while Ducati had made some game changers in the past, their 916 set the bar even higher financially and culturally. Yet this is a tough one to beat. Number 6, Yohammer J1. This claims to be the first production electric motorcycle with a 200-mile range, featuring an aluminum chassis and plastic bodywork, and reaches a top speed of 75 miles an hour. Needless to say, people have a lot to say about this bike, mainly that it's not the cutest thing they've ever seen, but perhaps there is at least some method to this madness. The battery pack is centralized below the rider, while the electric motor and controller are in the rear wheel, supported by a single-side box-section aluminum swing arm, and the twin front swing arms employ hub-center steering. Each end connects to a horizontal shock absorber within the chassis, making for a smoother ride. Turning the throttle forward provides braking and regenerative battery power, while the disc brakes are used for low-speed braking. The Yohammer has no central instrument panel, and so data is displayed on an LED window in the rear-view mirrors, which is certainly an interesting and futuristic touch. I'm digging this one. Number 5, Whitlock Tinker Toy. Known as the Whitlock Tinker Toy, this wacky 48-cylinder motorcycle holds the record for the functional vehicle with the most number of cylinders. But don't expect to see this thing roaring off the assembly lines anytime soon, because something like this is a custom job. English motorcycle enthusiast Simon Whitlock is the mad genius behind this outrageous motorcycle. It's based on the Kawasaki 250 S1, a relatively small bike equipped with a 3-cylinder 250cc engine, capable of putting out 31 horsepower. But you really can't tell that by looking at this behemoth. This souped-up Kawasaki features 6 rows of 8 original S1 cylinders, stripped off 16 S1 motorcycle engines. All cylinders are connected to a common transmission borrowed from a BMW motorcycle, and required more than the regular electric starter motor to start this thing. Whitlock's Frankenstein motorcycle is certainly a head-turner and a big piece of innovation. And because something like this would be so difficult to start, Whitlock built what he calls the Donkey engine, a small sub-50cc engine which is started first and in turn starts the 48-cylinder engine. But this souped-up Kawasaki was never built with practicality, efficiency, or even basic functionality in mind. Looking at the distance between the handlebars and the front edge of the seat, it's hard to believe that anyone can ride this for more than a few minutes without needing a chiropractor. Number 4. Reliant Robin. Even though this one isn't a motorcycle, every few years a car comes out that leaves you with your jaw on the floor, and not in a good way. The Reliant Robin is one of those. It was originally released by the Reliant Motor Company in Tamworth, England in 1973, and the world has unfortunately seen a few iterations of the Reliant Robin over those decades. As you can see, the Reliant Robin's claim to fame is its 3 wheels, making it out to be more of a giant tricycle than it is a car, and believe it or not, but the Reliant Robin was anything but reliable. This 3-wheel design was an absolute failure, because if you hit a turn too hard, too fast, or too sharp, you were tipping over, with no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The chassis was light and made entirely of fiberglass, but when you couple the lightweight of the automobile with the fact that it could reach a top speed of 85 miles an hour, you got a recipe for absolute disaster. The only way to have a successful drive in the Reliant Robin is to go in a perfectly straight line, but even then the steering wheel ran the risk of popping off while in use. This car isn't just strange, it was also a pretty awful idea. Number 3. Quasar. The odd-looking Quasar motorcycle took a cue from the Reliant Robin with its design and really turned the knob up to 11. Essentially a glorified and motorized big wheel, the Quasar requires the rider to sit feet forward or feet first, changing the usual position of the rider from on top and straddling the vehicle to inside and sitting down. Unlike most motorcycles, the Quasar is a cabin motorcycle, so tall riders may have trouble fitting inside of it. In the front of the bike, the laminated glass windscreen had car-style windscreen wipers and a heater, but the use of a semi-enclosed cockpit caused blind spots where the driver had to move their head around to make sure visibility was not obscured by the screen supports in the corners. In all, the design made very little sense to the rider, and if you've never heard of a Quasar, that's okay, because this model never really caught on. The minds behind it couldn't raise the funding required to truly get it on the road. And in the end, only 21 of the original models were made, and as of 2012, only 10 were known to be still on the road. Number 2. TMC Dumont. The saying, "there's nowhere to go but up," can really truly apply to anybody, but things really go to the next level when that's applied to a retired Formula One driver. Brazil's Tarso Marques has quite a few 2-wheeled pet projects sitting in his garage, but his TMC Dumont motorcycle is one of the most unusual, if not the most epic. Certainly a head-turner when it's out on the road, the TMC Dumont motorcycle looks like it came straight from a Bond movie. The motorcycle kisses the hubs goodbye and swaps out the traditional car engine for a 1960s Rolls-Royce aircraft engine to help give off that slick, futuristic vibe. This aircraft engine is situated right where the standard motorcycle engine and fuel tank would go, only it takes up significantly more space and serves almost as the TMC Dumont's full frame. And about those wheels, the motorcycle has 36-inch spokeless wheels for a completely open center design. So coupled with that 300 horsepower engine, it's pretty alarming that you can't see what the brakes in the vehicle are working with. And while this technically still is in the concept phase, it is very much real, and he could very much be seen cruising around on it. And since it's so low to the ground, he needs to avoid speed bumps and potholes at all costs, all while avoiding sharp turns that could send him skidding down the street. So yeah, the bike is completely impractical, but that didn't stop him from winning the Best of Show award at the 2018 Daytona Bike Week. Number 1. Bosozoku. More than just a motorcycle, Bosozoku is an amazing subculture from Japan that's all about customized motorcycles. But these bikes are unlike anything we've seen yet. Starting out as a scene for the bike gangs of the 1950s, Bosozoku blew up into something much more vibrant and fun in the 1980s and 90s. And while the subculture is awesome, you're guaranteed to see some weird bikes at any meetup. Like this bike known as the CC Lemon, which looks like an old American banana seat bike that grew up too fast. Or this bike that shows off its national pride clad in flags of the land of the rising sun. Or this elongated bike that looks like it roared off the pages of a Japanese manga. The world of Bosozoku is incredibly vast, and those involved come up with some of the most outlandish yet dedicated designs the world will ever see. Nothing's too weird or wacky when it comes to this scene, but you're not going to find any of these bikes at a dealership because all of them are custom mods, known as Kaizosha. Most Kaizosha will combine elements of the American choppers and British cafe racers like raised handlebars and oversized fairings, but they tend to take them to the extreme. And when it comes to paint jobs, the louder the better. Riders will also adorn their rides with flags, stickers, and different decals, all of which tend to depend on their region. Each bike and rider has their own sense of strong identity, and while the days of biker gangs are long gone, the new groups or gangs that form have all formed incredibly strong bonds. Sadly, though, the scene isn't quite what it used to be, and in 2015 there were only 6,700 self-proclaimed Mozozoku in Japan. I'll see you next time.